Welcome to our live stream on this Friday. We're coming to you from the Huckabee Theater in Hendersonville, just outside of Nashville. We'll be taping a Huckabee show this weekend. We always do. It'll be on the air. You can see it on TBN. But right now, we are live. Like, I got a pulse and everything. We're live. Pam Case with me, our senior producer for the show, and she's going to be reading questions that, you know who's going to send those in? You are. You're going to send them in, and you can start doing it right now. If you'd like more visibility, you can send us a super chat. If you'll send us those questions starting now, we'll get to as many as we can. We have some moderators watching the chat for the questions. They will compile them, send them to Pam. She will tell me. I will do my best to answer them or avoid them depending on whether I like them or not. That's how this works. We're going to talk about the first thing that Kamala Harris thinks about when she wakes up. Now, don't go away, because it's actually kind of funny. Not as bad as you think. Representative James Comer of Kentucky promises to subpoena the Hunter and Joe Biden family members. And Merrick Garland assigns a special counsel to investigate Hunter Biden. Just did that about 2 hours ago. We'll be talking about that. Why did he do it? Is this legit? What does it mean for the congressional investigations? We're also going to be looking into a massive lie by FBI Director Christopher Wray. As you know, if you are a regular viewer of our live stream, we do a pre-show poll. So those of you who come early to the live stream are kind of out in what we call the lobby, the electronic lobby. So rather than just have you sit there and listen to on hold music, we ask you a question. It's a poll. We get your response to it. Pam, what is our poll today?
All right, here we go. And props to the control room, by the way, because that on-hold music is a lot better than it used to be.
It is a lot better.
So I just want to compliment.
Way better.
Compliment the team in the control room today. So, all right, what's the first thing you think about when you wake up?
A preview of the Kamala Harris thing, right?
There we go.
Okay.
The airspeed velocity of a swallow. The state of our democracy. Food, or going back to sleep. What would you guess?
I'm thinking most people are going to say food.
Really? That's what I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to sleep at 58%.
58, okay.
Yeah, we had 350 people participating in Q today before we started. 17% for food, 20% for the state of our democracy, and 5% for airspeed velocity.
That's a weird 5%. I don't mean to insult you, but if you wake up thinking about the velocity of a swallow, you're weird.
Okay, do you know what that reference is?
No.
Monty Python. So, yes, the Holy Grail. Have you ever seen it? Well, that goes way back in the day. Yeah, so yeah, that's what the
But I don't remember the velocity of the python.
All right, we're going to have to find a clip, guys.
We got to find the clip, because when I think of Holy Grail, I think of the scene of King Arthur's Knights, and he says, "It's just a flesh wound."
Yes, absolutely.
Favorite line.
Yes.
I don't really have the ability to get past that, because to me, it's one of the most classic movie moments ever in history.
I feel pretty confident that a flesh wound clip would actually be appropriate at some point on this live stream.
I bet it would. I've got a friend, he and I always are throwing that particular line at each other over various things. If we can find a way to make that work, we will toss it.
Of course.
For the fun of it. Our top comment from last week's live stream comes from Debbie Usher, 6693. She says, quote, "Where have you been hiding to never have heard crooked as a dog's hind leg? I've been saying it since I was 5, almost 70 now. I can teach you a bunch of little sayings." Debbie, I bet you can. Maybe I've heard that in my lifetime. I'm sure I must have. I just don't remember it.
Yes.
I've heard so many sayings. And growing up in Arkansas, you know, Southerners, oh my gosh, we grew up with lots of sayings.
Yes.
Many of them I remember. I just don't recall that being one of them.
Right. Well, we talked off air today about close but no cigar,
which
is an old one you and I have been using for years.
And I knew what that was.
And you knew exactly what that was and how
from.
it started. So,
from a carnival atmosphere.
Yes, absolutely. Fairgrounds.
Instead of a teddy bear, an adult playing a carnival game would win a cigar.
Right.
And so the barker or the carny would say, you didn't make it.
Yeah.
Close, but no cigar.
Yep.
Exactly. All right, we got a question for you this week. Here it is. Do you think Joe Biden took bribes and profited from foreign business deals with his son? What do you think? Leave your answers in the chat or in the comments section below. And if you've not already subscribed to the channel, boy, it's a good time to do it right now before we get into the meat of the matter. So hit that subscribe button. Also punch that notification bell. Give us a like and share it with your friends. All of those are important things for you to do as we get started on this live stream Friday. Kamala Harris is known to say some weird stuff, and this week was no exception. She was asked what she thinks about when she gets up in the morning, and if I've ever heard a more ridiculous, insincere answer to a question, I can't remember the last time. Watch.
How the vice president responded when asked what she thinks about when she wakes up in the morning.
Our democracy. Rev, I think everything is at stake right now.
I think what was so insincere about that was the way she tried to dramatize it. Like, she wakes up in the morning. Most of us think coffee, get it in my system now. Or what do I got to do? She wakes up and says, democracy. Democracy is what I think about. Does anybody in America believe that when she wakes up, that is the first thing on her mind? No, not a chance. Maybe a donut, maybe a latte, but I don't think she wakes up with this genuine feeling of great angst over democracy. Just don't buy it. Boy, speaking of not buying something, I'll tell you, the American people are not buying Bidenomics, and I don't get it. I mean, it's just done such wonders for us, right? Yeah, well, the Biden administration continues to push Bidenomics as the greatest thing since toothpaste, sliced bread, and barbecue ribs, but most people don't buy it. And when confronted at the White House, Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, well, she just digs the hole a little deeper.
Here's the thing. This is a president who has spent the last 2 years turning the economy around. You hear us talk about Bidenomics. You just mentioned how we're doing this West Coast swing, talking directly to the American people about how wages are actually going up, about how inflation is going down over a long, extended period of time, more than 12 months. That is important.
I really thought she would start with once upon a time and end with the phrase, and they lived happily ever after, because that's a fairy tale if I've ever heard one.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's just ridiculous when she says inflation is going down. Well, inflation didn't even exist till they took office. It went way up, and if it's down any, it's still up from what it has been. It's up higher than it has been in 40 years. And they're bragging about what a great job they're doing, turning the economy around. Actually, about run it in the ground. Wages are not going up. That's an outright lie. I don't know how they do it, but I tell you how they do it. They do it because nobody ever questions them. The press, they don't hold them accountable for these things. They just let them say it, and it's like, yeah, it must be true if they're saying it. Unbelievable. Joe Biden has had his moments this week. He says something here about working people. I'm not sure if he was off script or off his meds. Something was off. Let's watch.
The problem was too many people are working, making too much money. That's not the problem.
What in the heck did that mean? Too many people are working. I think he caught himself and realized, well, that wouldn't be a bad thing if people are working. And he said, well, working people, whatever. And he just kind of drifted off. I don't know did you get any of that?
No. Working people?
But he was talking about working people, and first he started off saying there's too many people working. Then he started talking about working people, but it just didn't work. There you go. Well, here's another one. Joe Biden is also pitching Bidenomics and how wonderful it is. And I'll tell you, you know when he's lying when he leans in and gives this whisper thing. Watch this.
Unless you make more than $400,000 a year, your federal taxes aren't going to go up a single penny. And guess what? I did all this without raising anybody's taxes in the middle class. And one other little thing. During this process, I cut the federal budget in 2 years by $1.7 trillion.
Everything he just said was a big, fat lie.
That's great.
What is this whole thing? Whispered,
well, you
stage
got my
whisper
attention.
stuff. I guess, but what he was trying to tell us was that nobody making under $400,000 pays a penny of more in tax. Not true. A lot of things cost more. And if you've bought gasoline lately, you know, he may say, well, it's not as high as it was. Well, it was less than $2 a gallon when he took office. it got as high as 6. It's gone down now to 3 something, but it's still $1.50 higher than it was when he took office. And this thing about he cut the debt or the deficit by $1.7 trillion, that is simply not true. He just keeps saying it. He says that same figure over and over. You'd think somebody would say, Mr. President, you didn't do that. I don't know. Can't understand it. All right, I want to go to climate change because I'm probably going to hear, if we haven't already, that the Maui wildfires, which are horrible. Oh, my gosh. Already 55 dead, 1,000 people missing. Just horrific. You look at the before and after pictures. Such a beautiful place. Beautiful place. Just being wiped out, and it's just awful. But Joe Biden believes that the best way to improve the military, somewhere he gets a connection to this, I don't, but if we focus on climate change, we'll recruit more people to the military.
The U.S. preparing the military?
Well, we're preparing the military by trying to deal with the climate stuff. For example, many of the bases that have flooded, many of these massive floods, they've flooded out military bases in the Midwest and the South. That has a profound impact on readiness. And so what we have to do is change the way in which we generate energy. And that's the whole of it. And the military is doing their part.
I mean, this is so irrational. Basically, he's saying that there have been flooding issues on military bases. Well, Joe, there's been flooding issues all over the place. Has nothing to do with whether it's a military issue. Do you think that military bases have been targeted by God to flood? I don't get that. But then he goes into this thing of it's affecting our readiness because these bases have been hit by floods. And then that's affecting our recruiting. Hey, I'm going to throw this out there. If anyone watching today can give me one example of a person you know who said, no, I was going to sign up to be a Marine, but I'm not anymore because, by golly, there's flooding going on at Camp Pendleton. And so I'm not going to join the military after all because of flooding, which I'm sure is due to climate change, and therefore I'm not going. If you know of anyone like that, let me know. And I will eat this piece of paper without any seasoning. I will eat it on air. You'll watch me do it. I will swallow it in front of all of you. But you have to prove that somebody actually didn't join the military because of a flooding issue on a military base. I think I'm pretty safe. I should have probably made it even more outlandish. He also wants to pretend that he has declared climate change a national emergency. Now, he hasn't, and his staff had to go back and correct him. I don't know if he thought he had or if he just was telling a whopper. I don't know. But he tells this reporter who asked him 2 or 3 times, are you sure you did that? It's a pretty interesting exchange. She knows more about it than he does, clearly.
Are you prepared to declare a national emergency with respect to climate change?
I've already done that. We've conserved more land. We've we've rejoined the Paris Climate Accord. We've passed a $368 billion climate control facility. We're moving. It is the existential threat to humanity.
So you've already declared that national emergency?
Well, in the practice, you got a bug on you.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. So you've already declared that national emergency?
Practically speaking, yes.
Yeah.
I think the best part of the interview was when he said, you got a bug on you. Yeah. That's funny.
It is.
It just gave him an excuse to touch her. That's what it was. I'm just telling you. This is a guy that leans down and sniffs the hair of every person in his presence. And young, attractive reporter, and I don't know if she had a bug on her or not, but it gave him a reason to touch her on the shoulder. There you go. Yeah. Did you know that?
Yeah, I'm not going to touch that one.
Okay.
Pun intended.
I'm just thinking that's what I saw from that, given his history. In a sad moment, Joe Biden, in talking with some of the families of the 13 Marines who were killed in Afghanistan and the totally botched escape from there when U.S. pulled out without planning or preparing, and the mother of one of the Marines who was killed in that Afghan withdrawal was talking about her encounter with Joe Biden and what he said and how it made her feel. It's pretty sad, really.
If President Biden were watching right now, what would you want to say to him?
I would want to say to him that he needs to be a grown man. He needs to come out and say, yeah, I made a mistake. I chose wrong. I was looking for a photo op, and I messed up. That's what he needs to do.
That was not quite a year ago, but or 2 years ago. 2 years ago. But it was a total disaster, and we lost 13 American military personnel. And many of those family members are still pretty unhappy, not just with the fact, obviously, of their family members dying, but when they met with Joe, he immediately started talking about his son, Bo, who died, but not from combat. He died of cancer, which is tragic. But many of them were highly offended that he tried to equate his son dying stateside of a disease compared to them getting blown to smithereens by a bomb. So it's just been a tragic thing. And somebody probably should take him aside and explain that when you're talking to someone who's lost a loved one, they don't want to hear your story. They want you to ask about their story. Yes. And somehow he didn't get that at all. Let's take a couple of questions before we get back into some of our videos, because we've got a lot of them today.
Okay, sure. I'm going to start with Suzanne Kahalik. She is actually referencing the pre-show poll today where we asked, what's the first thing you think about when you wake up? And she said that we don't live in a democracy. We live in a republic with democratically elected leaders. She says, I wake up and think about the day ahead, asking God for help.
Very good, Suzanne. And she's right. We do not live in a democracy. It is a republic where we elect representatives who vote on our behalf. Very true.
Purple Haze is saying, or as asking today, did they really put a yield thing on Trump during the latest indictment case to keep him from running? And is that really possible, or am I mishearing this?
I think there's an attempt. You know, Jack Smith is trying to get a gag order on Trump where he can't talk about the court thing. And, I mean, that's a ridiculous thing to tell a presidential candidate that you cannot talk, which is part of what this whole legal strategy is. Even if they don't convict Trump, they want to tie him up in court, they want to make him spend a bunch of his money on lawyers, and they want to issue gag orders and restrictions about where he can go, what he can do. There was one of the judges that even talked about saying he was a flight risk. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. He's the most recognizable person on the planet right now. I can't think of anybody who would instantly be recognized more readily than Donald Trump. And he's surrounded by armed Secret Service agents who are with him 24 hours of the day. And somehow he's going to jump in a car, put on a disguise, and fly off to Zimbabwe or something? What is that?
Yes.
This is stupid stuff.
Yes.
It's a treatment of him that doesn't exist for anyone else.
Got to remind everybody, too, to make sure that if you like what you're seeing today, the opportunity to interact with Governor live, which this is live. We checked his pulse earlier. He is live. And
barely there, but still on this side of the dirt.
Still. And subscribe, of course, and hit that notification bell so next time you will be notified when we do a live stream just like this. All right, with questions just like this. Julie Pritchett says, Mike, I love you. I also love your Sarah. Please tell her that there's an old lady who loves her and always has. Thank you very much. Just a comment. Carlton Stovall says, what is the likelihood that Trump and JFK Jr. would run together?
I don't think it's a very good likelihood. They're very different in a lot of their views and ideologies. But I do think that there's some common ground that they have, and I respect it. By the way, RFK Jr. is going to be on the Huckabee Show the weekend of August the 20, I guess it'll be the 26th.
Yes, that is correct.
It'll be the air date.
Last
26th.
week of the month.
I'm looking forward to having him. I respect him a lot. I've said that on this live stream before because I find him refreshingly honest. You don't have to agree with all of his views. He has some very strong views, particularly on the environment and climate. But I believe he believes with passion what he says. And I think he's also a person who has a strong level of independence from the Washington deep state. In fact, he hates the Washington deep state and believes that it is really in collusion against American citizens. He and Trump are a lot alike in that. They both come from the outside. They have a great distrust of our current state of government. And I think both of them have very important things to say in that regard. I don't think they'll likely run together. It's an intriguing idea, to be sure. But if my choice was Joe Biden or RFK for 4 years, I'll take RFK every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
Wow. All right. You heard it. Carol Webb is asking this afternoon, Governor, do you think the Supreme Court will get involved in the Trump lawsuit in Georgia?
I think it's very possible, not just that lawsuit, the one in Georgia, but I think it's very likely that they will at some point intervene in all of these criminal charges being filed. And the reason is because there's some real constitutional questions as to whether it's appropriate for the current president, Joe Biden, and his administration, i.e. Merrick Garland and the FBI that worked for Joe Biden, to be criminally charging Donald Trump for what he believes and says. I mean, that's stepping across a line there that we can never return from if this goes on, where instead of beating your opponent in a presidential election, you hold the office, so you use all the levers and powers of government to criminally charge and disable your opponent. And I just think that is just troubling.
Alan Weber asking today, Gov, what about the special counsel? Get on with it.
Well, funny you should bring that up. You know, just about 2 hours ago, Merrick Garland made an announcement, took no questions, of course, but he made an announcement that David Weiss up in Delaware, who is the U.S. attorney there, and the one who supposedly put together this little deal where Hunter was going to get off with nothing more than a couple of misdemeanors for tax evasion. And Merrick Garland announces that David Weiss will be the special counsel, and he will be given the opportunity to visit any of the crimes of Hunter Biden. Now, for those who would say, oh, that's wonderful, well, Merrick Garland, he's going to get tough. Let's put this in perspective. What's really going on? Here's what's happening. Merrick Garland is assigning David Weiss, who's already shown that he's not likely to do anything rash and outside the sort of the bounds of the D.C. uniparty. And he's appointed him so it's a sleight of hand. Hey, look over here. So you don't see what's going on over here. What's the timing of this? Right now, James Comer and the House Committee of Oversight is pouring out bank records that show that the Biden family took over $20 million in deals with foreign government business operations, including China, Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan. This is some pretty serious stuff. And as this stuff starts to come up, Merrick Garland trots out and says, we'll have a special counsel. Now, many of the things that we really should know what happened, the statute of limitations has run out on those things. So he's not going to be looking at some of the most egregious crimes and times, and that was strategic. And that's why I think they held this whole investigation up until just recently when they came out and said, oh, we have a special deal. What they didn't expect was the judge said, this deal stinks, threw it out, told him to come back. So now the whole thing's messed up. I am absolutely convinced, I could be wrong, but I rarely am. All of this is a ruse. It's just an attempt to deflect attention away from the investigation that Congress is doing. And here's what Merrick Garland and the Justice Department will do when Congress says we're going to subpoena members of the Biden family. Oh, no, you can't do that because we're doing an active investigation, so you can't talk to them. Watch and see. If that happens, what I'm just telling you is the absolute truth. If they don't prevent them from going, if they continue to turn over information, then you can say I'm wrong. I won't be. I almost would guarantee it. Almost would eat the other sheet of paper that I have in front of me.
Well, let's get through some videos first, then you can eat the paper.
There you go. Okay, let's go to some videos. We've got, this is James Comer, who, by the way, is going to be on our show next week. And he is talking about the subpoena to get from the Bidens and have them come and talk about the scheme of influence.
to subpoena Hunter Biden.
Yeah, this is always going to end with the Bidens coming in front of the committee. We are going to subpoena the family. I mean, we're putting the case together to win in court. Obviously, with all the opposition and obstruction we're getting from the Biden attorneys now, we know that this is going to end up in court when we subpoena the Biden. So we're putting together a case, and I think we've done that very well.
What James Comer was saying is very significant, but if you saw the graphic on the screen, it said how much time NBC has devoted to the Trump story and to the Biden story. 332 minutes on Trump and his indictments. Of the whole Biden scandal, 4 minutes and a few seconds. Go figure. We just talked about, I won't go back into this, but the Hunter Biden investigation by David Weiss. I just want to reiterate, keep an eye on this, because I am confident that Merrick Garland trotted out there today, not in the interest of justice, but in the interest of cover-up. This is a bad guy. He just is. Speaking of bad guys, let's talk Chris Wray, FBI director. Under oath, he announced some months ago that these rumors about traditional Catholics being targeted as terrorists was just some blip. It only happened in one FBI field office in Richmond, Virginia. Turns out, that's a big old fat lie.
Doctor, what's the difference between a traditional Catholic and a radical traditional Catholic?
I'm not an expert on the Catholic orders.
Well, your FBI wrote a memo talking about radical traditional Catholics. I'm just wondering if you could define it for us.
Well, what I can tell you is you're referring to the Richmond product, which was a single product by a single field office.
Breaking news coming in because the House Judiciary now claims they have documents showing that both the L.A. and the Portland field offices of the FBI were contributing to this assessment that Catholics, we're talking about traditional Catholics, were potentially domestic terrorists.
You know, frankly, I found traditional Catholics to be pretty decent people. Sure. Family folks, church-oriented, community-oriented. I don't know what's so scary about a traditional Catholic other than they're pro-life, but so am I. I'm evangelical. But that scares the daylights out of people like the Justice Department and Christopher Wray. Here's the thing. Christopher Wray, there's only one of two conclusions you could come. He either was lying about the field offices, only one of them, doing any investigation and nipping that in the bud, and they stopped it. Because it was that was going on in a lot of places, West Coast, all over. So he said, only one place. Not true, Christopher. So he either was lying or this man has no idea what's going on in his agency, and when he goes to Congress to testify, he is oblivious to it, and his staff hasn't adequately prepped him for the exchange. So which is it? Incompetent or dishonest? Either way, he needs to go. He needs to get out. Up in New York, illegal immigrants are coming in by the tens of thousands. And I don't know what the problem is because, Pam, you remember that's a sanctuary city. Remember when the mayor has bragged about, we're a sanctuary city. Well, these people down in Texas, well, they don't want the immigrants, but we do because we're a sanctuary city. So Greg Abbott took him up on it. And he flew thousands of these folks from Texas to New York, dropped them off, said, here you are, there's your sanctuary. Now Eric Adams is crying every day. He's used up a whole warehouse full of Kleenex because he can't handle the immigrants. They're going to cost him more than $1 billion, filling up his hotels and his schoolrooms. And he has a different tune these days, and it's just funny to watch. Here is Eric Adams, New York mayor.
Think about what happened in the last few months. We have created a funnel. All of the bordering states have now took the funnel right to New York City. New York City is the economic engine of this entire state and country. If you decimate this city, you're going to decimate the foundation of what's happening.
You're going to decimate the city. Well, you've done a pretty good job of that without the immigrants. But having them show up and sleep on the streets and you having to pay for their hotel rooms and their meals and education and health care, Now you begin to understand what those folks in small towns in Texas are having to deal with. If you can't absorb it in New York City, how do you think a town of 5,000 people in South Texas can handle it? Kind of funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny.
Sanctuary city, Yeah, no sanctuary anymore. They want to get Joe Biden to bring the National Guard in and stop all this stuff. It's just amazing. Okay, let's take some questions from our viewers.
About to lay a comment on you from Jay Luther. Don't mention that he, David Weiss, is a Trump appointee. Don't do it. Huck it. It doesn't fit the Huckaganda agenda.
No, I would say he's a Trump appointee, but right now he's working for the Biden Justice Department, not the Trump Justice Department. And he kept him on so he could be this special counsel, but no matter who appointed him, he is the one that made a deal that you would not have gotten. So, Jay, let me tell you something. If you had not paid your taxes and owed hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes, and you didn't pay it, and you were a crackhead, I just want, and in addition to being a crackhead, not paying your taxes, you illegally had a firearm. Do you think the deal that you would have made with the Justice Department was a couple of misdemeanors and promise of no future prosecutions of crimes past, present, and future? Because if you believe that, let me see what I got to sell you today. Something pretty good, I bet.
All right, here's another one. Give us strength. Says, I have a question. Is there a law where Congress can't question people that are under FBI investigation? So does the FBI supersede Congress on investigations?
It's not that they supersede them, but the FBI and the Justice Department will use this as a way to say, we'd love for this person to come and testify, but can't because there is an investigation underway, and they will claim that it supersedes that of the oversight role of Congress. Of course, that's what they will say.
Okay, thanks. Trudy Selzer is asking today, why don't the press ever call them, that's the Biden administrative officials, why don't they ever call them out? It seems like they always get the last say.
Because the press are in collusion with the people on the left. And it's not just the left. Some of this is true of if a Republican, and there are some Republicans who hate Trump or who are deeply embedded in the deep state of D.C., and if they'll say bad things about other Republicans, conservatives, pro-lifers, they'll get all the TV time they want on CNN and MSNBC. So it isn't just the people on the left. It's anybody that helps sort of feed the narrative that anybody in the America First crowd is crazy, mixed up, messed up, and probably criminal. So, yeah, I think that's what's going on.
All right, Clean Queen 75 is asking, do you think Trump will want the trial to be after the election?
I would think he probably would. One of the reasons Jack Smith is trying to push it for now is because he wants to disable Trump, make it harder for him to run, which I would say that's election interference at its worst. So if you really are saying, oh, it's nothing to do with the election, okay, let the election play out. And if you've got the goods on Trump and you get a conviction, okay, deal with it then. But you don't have to do it right now. You waited for 3 years since Trump's been out of office. You could have prosecuted this stuff, but you didn't. You waited till the heat of the campaign, and his opponent is the guy you work for, by the way. When I say the guy you work for, Jack Smith, the prosecutor who's pushing all this stuff, works for Joe Biden. How convenient.
So we have our question of the day. Do you think that Joe Biden took bribes and profited from foreign business deals with his son? So responses, 94%. All right.
Wow.
So he's pure as the driven snow with 4%, and where am I? At 3%.
Where am I? That's plausible. 94% thinks that it was bribery. There is a very weird little message. I want to get to it before we run out of time, and we're about to. So this is a video that's trending on TikTok, which I don't subscribe to, but I see TikTok videos on Twitter And this is one where basically the message is, if you're a woman and you get married, you're going to be a slave. Watch. I mean, the implication is she's about to put the ring on and get married. Therefore, she's going to be almost in servitude in domestic duties, like cleaning a house and taking care of everything from meals. And I'm thinking, did she already have a house to clean? Did she already have to cook? I mean, it wasn't that marriage made these responsibilities. And in most marriages, you know what will happen? Shared responsibility.
It's kind of how it's supposed to work out.
You know, it does. I do all of our grocery shopping. I do my own laundry. I do the dishes in the dishwasher, but I do unload and load it. You know, so it's not like my wife does. I do a lot of the cooking.
So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
So when that
Quite
girl,
the catch you are.
I keep telling my wife that. Maybe we all need to let her know.
That was you in the video?
Yeah, that was not, no. One final video we're going to show. I don't even understand it. This lady, it's not, well, watch it and see if you can understand this better than me, because I've watched it 3 times and I'm not sure I totally understand it, but let's watch.
I'm literally shaking right now. I heard something from the bed. It's like 6:30 in the morning. I heard something in our bathroom that we're remodeling. This is not my dog. Sweet baby, how did you get there? How did this happen? And what do I do about it? I mean, he's chill. Oh my gosh, like, what do I do? Like, how do I get this dog, this sweet dog, out of my floor?
A dog in her floor, just the head sticking up. So obviously it's a trick, a joke.
Yes.
But it would almost be kind of funny, but I'd like for there to be a postscript to explain, we're funning with you.
I don't know, that and the dramatic way in which she presented it, I'm not sure I can get past that.
Yeah, I think I'd be laughing
ridiculous.
at that point. Hey, be sure to leave your questions in the comments section, even after we're off the air. And we've reminded you a couple of times, but one more time before we go, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, click the notification bell. And remember, Live with Mike streams every Friday unless we tell you otherwise.